Looking for the best Resident Evil games on Nintendo Switch? Here are 25 titles worth playing, from mainline classics to remakes and Resident Evil-inspired horror picks. Number 1 on this list is the original Resident Evil, the remastered version of the game that started it all back in 1996. Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield explore the Spencer Mansion, filled with zombies, puzzles, and limited ammo. The fixed camera angles and tense pacing still hold up today, making it a perfect starting point for anyone curious about where the survival horror genre truly began on Nintendo Switch. Right after that comes Resident Evil 0, number 2 on the countdown, a prequel that puts Rebecca Chambers and escaped convict Billy Cohen together in the Arklay Mountains. What makes this entry stand out is the partner system, letting you swap characters and combine items on the fly. The atmosphere is thick with dread, and it rounds out the origin story nicely on Switch. At number 3, we reach Resident Evil 4, widely considered one of the most influential action games ever made. Leon Kennedy travels to rural Spain to rescue the president's daughter from a cult infected by a parasite. The over-the-shoulder camera changed the genre forever, and playing it in handheld mode on Switch still feels surprisingly comfortable years after its original release. Moving to number 4, Resident Evil 5 shifts the focus toward co-op action as Chris Redfield teams up with Sheva Olimar in West Africa. Expect bigger set pieces, tougher enemies, and a faster pace than earlier entries. Playing split screen or online with a friend adds a lot of replay value, and the Switch version bundles in extra content that rounds the adventure out nicely. 5th on the countdown is Resident Evil 6, the most ambitious mainline entry in terms of scale. 4 intertwined campaigns follow Leon, Chris, Jake Muller, and Ada Wong across different corners of a global outbreak. It leans harder into action than horror, but fans looking for variety and long playtime will get plenty of content here, especially bundled with 4 and 5 in the triple pack. Number 6 brings us to Resident Evil Revelations, originally a handheld title that later found a great home on Switch. Jill Valentine investigates a ghost ship called the Queen Zenobia, and the tighter corridors bring back that classic feeling of dread and resource management. It sits nicely between the older tank control games and the more modern action-focused entries in the series. Following that is Resident Evil Revelations 2, number 7, which pairs Claire Redfield with Moira Burton in an abandoned island facility. The partner mechanic returns, and split-screen co-op makes this one a great pick for playing with a friend. Its episodic structure keeps tension high throughout, and it remains one of the more underrated entries available on Nintendo Switch today. At number 8, we get Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, the game that reinvented the series with a first-person perspective. Ethan Winters searches for his missing wife in a decaying Louisiana plantation home ruled by the terrifying Baker family. Played through cloud streaming on Switch, it delivers the same unsettling atmosphere and jump scares that made it a fan favorite everywhere else. Number 9 is Resident Evil 2, the acclaimed remake that rebuilt the original 1998 classic from the ground up. Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield navigate a zombie-infested Raccoon City police department while being hunted by the relentless Mr. X. Streamed through the cloud on Switch, it still delivers sharp visuals, tight tension, and one of the best remakes in modern gaming. Right behind it at number 10 sits Resident Evil 3, following Jill Valentine as she escapes Raccoon City while pursued by the unstoppable bioweapon Nemesis. This remake trims some content compared to the original, but adds faster pacing and intense chase sequences. Like its predecessor, it runs through cloud streaming on Switch, giving handheld players access to one of the more action-heavy remakes. Number 11 is Resident Evil Village, picking up a few years after the events of Resident Evil 7. Ethan Winters wakes up in a snowy village filled with werewolves, a towering vampire lady, and other horrifying creatures. Available through cloud streaming on the original Switch and natively on Switch 2, it blends first-person horror with a surprising amount of variety across its areas. 12th on the list is the Resident Evil 4 Remake, a full reimagining of the 2005 classic with modern visuals and refined combat. Leon returns to rural Spain to save Ashley Graham from a cult wielding a mysterious parasite. Whether streamed on the original Switch or played natively on Switch 2, this remake stands as one of the strongest entries in the entire franchise. Number 13 belongs to Resident Evil Requiem, the newest mainline entry and the most technically impressive game on this list. FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft teams up with franchise veteran Leon Kennedy in a return to Raccoon City. Released natively on Switch 2, it combines psychological horror with intense action and quickly became one of the fastest-selling entries in franchise history. Stepping outside the mainline series, number 14 is Alien Isolation, a stealth horror game where Amanda Ripley searches for answers aboard the Sevastopol space station. The relentless xenomorph hunts you with unpredictable AI, forcing constant improvisation instead of straightforward combat. If you love the tension of early Resident Evil but want something set among the stars, this one delivers non-stop dread. Number 15 is Fatal Frame: Maiden of Blackwater, a Japanese horror game where Yuri Kozukata searches for her missing sister on a haunted mountain. Instead of guns, you fight vengeful spirits using a camera called the Camera Obscura, which creates a completely different kind of tension. Fans of atmospheric, story-driven horror will find this an excellent addition to their Switch library. At number 16, we have Signalis, a sci-fi horror game that leans heavily into limited inventory and constant dread. Elster, an android technician, searches for her lost friend Ariane after crash landing on a frozen island. The story unfolds in a layered, emotional way, and the retro visual style pairs beautifully with genuinely disturbing survival horror mechanics throughout the experience. Number 17 is Tormented Souls, a modern homage that captures the feel of classic fixed-camera survival horror almost perfectly. Fixed angles, deliberate movement, and heavy puzzle solving recall the earliest Resident Evil games in a way few modern titles manage. If you miss that old-school pacing and tension, this is one of the closest experiences you can find on Switch today. 18th on this list is Crow Country, a stylized horror game with visuals reminiscent of late 90s classics. Exploration is careful, resources stay limited, and the environment itself tells much of the unsettling story. It works especially well as an entry point for players who want that classic survival horror feeling without an overwhelming level of difficulty or constant jump scares. Number 19 brings us Daymare 1998, an indie survival horror game clearly inspired by the tone and structure of the original Resident Evil titles. Multiple playable characters investigate a biological disaster involving a secretive corporation, zombies, and dangerous creatures. The puzzle design and resource management will feel instantly familiar to longtime fans of classic Capcom horror looking for something new. At number 20 is Remothered Tormented Fathers, a stalker horror game where Rosemary Reed investigates a mysterious old mansion. Instead of combat, the game leans into evasion and improvised weapons, creating constant vulnerability. The unsettling atmosphere and disturbing story make it a strong pick for players who enjoy horror built around helplessness rather than straightforward action-heavy encounters. Number 21 is Visage, a slow-burn psychological horror game set inside a house haunted by past tragedies. Players explore, uncover disturbing details, and manage sanity while unseen forces manipulate the environment around them. It trades combat entirely for atmosphere and dread, making it a great pick for anyone who wants horror focused purely on tension and unease. At 22, we reach the Amnesia Collection, bundling 3 distinct entries from frictional games into one package. The Dark Descent remains a genre-defining classic, built entirely around helplessness and sanity management. Justine and A Machine for Pigs each offer a different flavor of dread, giving players 3 separate reasons to fear the dark on Nintendo Switch. Number 23 is Elisa Developer's Cut, a throwback survival horror game that fully embraces the tank controls and campy charm of 90s classics. Elisa wakes up in a mysterious mansion filled with living dolls and puzzles reminiscent of early Resident Evil. It is a loving tribute built specifically for players nostalgic for that exact era of horror gaming. 24 on the list is The Coma Recut, a side-scrolling horror game following a Korean student named Young-ho, trapped in a nightmarish version of his school. Stealth and evasion replace combat entirely, forcing constant awareness of your surroundings. Its unique visual style and oppressive atmosphere make it a memorable pick for horror fans looking for something different on Switch. Closing out the list at number 25 is Little Nightmares 2, a smaller but atmospheric horror adventure following Mono and Six through a distorted, oversized world. Puzzle solving and stealth replace combat, and the unsettling visual design creates constant unease. It is a great palate cleanser after heavier titles, rounding out this Resident Evil-inspired lineup on Nintendo Switch perfectly.